First edition begins this hour with the Food and Drug Administration saying they are doing what they can to help with the nationwide baby formula shortage. FDA officials say they are meeting with major formula manufacturers to figure out how to boost production. They are expediting certificates to import products that have already been approved abroad. A company called Abbott, you've heard of them, recalled several of its formula brands back in February, and their shortage has been a problem since then. Officials with the company say they believe their formula was not linked to infant illnesses or deaths. They plan to restart production in 2 weeks. They say 6 to 8 weeks after that, products should be back on shelves.
Some families are looking into other ways to get formula, including making their own. The FDA warns against this, and they say homemade formula is not safe for babies. Dr. Saleem Sorani joins us live to discuss the shortage and possible alternatives. Dr. Surani, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us today. So how do we feed our babies through this shortage?
Good morning, Barbie. Glad to be here. I think the main is that we all have to consider, and formula shortage is not something which we expected. One was obviously the pandemic came in, so we had a supply chain issue. And the second thing is it was a recall in February with one of the major production plant for Abbott, which produces the Similac. So they had the recall on Similac, Alicare, and Alimentarium. And what they found was that there were 4 children, one in Minnesota, one in Texas, and 2 in Ohio. And what they suffer from a bacterial infection called Corynebacterium sakazaki. And that is something which affect what we call is a dry area. So it affected the field that affected the dry powder, and it caused the disease. So they kind of recall all the things. So what we had a supply chain issue and complicated by the recall that created a big challenge, because if we know that the Abbott Lab supplies almost 50% of the WIC program, or Women, Infant, Children program. So now what we can do, I think a lot of the folks are trying to go and start making the home milk. That's not a good idea because you cannot make it correct. There is a risk of contamination. You can also lack some of the important nutrient and vitamins which may be important for your baby's growth. Sometimes you can switch the formula. For example, Similac, you can go to Infamil. If your kid is using a Similac sensitive, you can go to Infamil NeuroPro. But main thing is that we need to avoid hoarding. They are trying, even the company is trying to, rather than getting by ship, they are trying to get it from Ireland by air, so we can have those products on the shelf as quickly as possible. One of the reasons in going on the shelf is just like what we saw in the toilet paper in the pandemic, everyone was trying to get the toilet paper off the shelf, and that is what is happening with the baby formula. People are hoarding, taking a much more amount in supplies for months and months, thinking it would be a shortage, and that's creating and making the shortage worse. They're trying to get it by air, not by ship, because we know in the ship, it's like coming on a Pony Express with one leg, so it can take time. So they're trying to speed up by getting it. And at the same time, as you mentioned, they're trying to ask other companies and other plan to increase the production. But when you do that, it takes few weeks. So that's one of the important message. Don't hoard.
A couple of other things that are not safe, if you're stretching out the formula by adding water and other food sources, definitely not safe. And remember that you can start introducing solids to your baby around 4 to 6 months. So that's another good thing to keep in mind. And Dr. Surani, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate your time as always. If you have a question for Dr. Surani, you can text us to the number on your screen, 361-855-6397. If you are struggling with formula, call your pediatrician because they may have extra supply, or check out smaller stores or pharmacies. TexasWIC.org also has income guidelines to see if your family qualifies. All moms who are on Medicaid or food stamps automatically qualify for WIC, and they just need to get in contact with their local WIC agency to get an appointment to set up with them as well.